I believe that luck is not one thing that you just either have it or you ever miss it. It's more like a bus that comes at certain times, and the only thing is it will come again, but you need to have the ticket for it. You need to be ready. So often we just spend our time waiting for our lucky moment without actually getting the necessary skills and without actually investing in ourselves and without getting better. So then when that bus comes, we are not prepared to embark on the journey. We don't have the ticket for it. Welcome everyone to LifewithLiza podcast. Our mission at LifewithLiza is to share people's stories and the challenges that they have overcome so that those who are listening in can get the strength, the courage and the hope to be their better selves. And I wanted to start this episode by thanking you for showing up and listening to this episode, whether it is the first episode that you're ever listening to or you've been listening to my episodes for quite a while. I really appreciate you, and also I think it's incredible that you're taking the time to learn, to improve, to get better, and it's such a beautiful endeavor that we are on. And in today's episode, I wanted to share my personal story about how I got my job, which is such a crazy story. But at the same time, it will also touch upon the topic of luck, what luck is if I believe in it, and the importance of being ready. So there are a few quotes about luck that I wanted to mention before we get into the story of how Liza got her job in the Netherlands. So I believe that luck is not one thing that you just either have it or you ever miss it. It's more like a bus that comes at certain times, and the only thing is it will come again, but you need to have the ticket for it and you need to be ready. So often we just spend our time waiting for our lucky moment without actually getting the necessary skills and without actually investing in ourselves and without getting better. So then when that bus comes, we are not prepared to embark on the journey. We don't have the ticket for it. So that's why I do think it's very important to do that regardless of your life circumstances. And here comes the story of how I got my job. So I've been looking for a job after my graduation from uni for a while, and it was very hard to find one. And then I got invited to do an interview at Accenture. The only plot twist was that they called me after I applied and they mentioned, "We can see that on your CV you mentioned that your Dutch is A2. Do you think it's good enough to do the whole interview day in Dutch?" What do you think I said? I said yes. If an opportunity comes your way, you say yes, and then you figure it out along the way what to do and how to approach the problem. So I thought, if I say no, then I already lost. I have nothing to lose, so I might as well go for it and just see what happens. So then in the end, it was only 9 people and I was the only non-Dutch person. And not only it made me stand out from others, also the whole hiring team was so impressed by me being so courageous and showing up there despite my Dutch not being fluent, and still doing my best in speaking Dutch and trying to understand other people, and just showing up to such a hard and difficult and not an easy situation, and to a situation where so many other people could have easily said no, and actually where saying no would have been an easier option. And then I had the whole selection process. It was a whole day, and I remember I felt so tired because my brain had been forced to be so concentrated for the whole day that it was completely exhausted. And I remember on Monday I would hear the news, and then I was at home and I get a call and the HR person says, "You got the job." Everyone was just so impressed that you put yourself out there and you did this hard thing, and everyone who just couldn't just stop talking about you, so you got the job. And I thought, isn't it funny how sometimes also the things that we think are actually our disadvantages are the things that make us stand out and make us remarkable and make us ourselves. But at the same time, going back to the original point about luck, I do believe that sometimes we do get this lucky breaks or lucky opportunities, but we also have to be ready for it, because for the past few months or years I spent time improving my Dutch, and actually so many people, when they live in the Netherlands, they don't put any effort into learning the language because everyone speaks English, and the entry requirement to a lot of Dutch firms is that you have to speak Dutch. So yes, indeed, I was lucky that I had this opportunity and that I could go to that interview day. But at the same time, I already had my ticket because I was ready for it. I got my Dutch to a level where I could do that, even though my Dutch was not fluent, but it was still acceptable. I had my ticket fare. So that's what I was thinking about luck, that luck does come to us, but it has to find us working. It will not come to those who are lazy or who have not invested in the skills and invested in themselves while they were waiting for something lucky to happen. So I wanted to share this story because I think it's quite an inspiring one, and it's also hilarious because honestly, so often I get myself into some situations and then I think, how on earth will I solve this? And I have quite a few of them in my life, and I feel like because you tend to say, once you succeeded in a certain crazy situation, then you almost seek another one because it's so exciting and it puts you on edge and it pushes you harder than anything else. And that's why I also, for example, in my current job now, in a current project, I was doing a chatbot in German, whereas German is not my first language, or just buying a one-way ticket to Paris and figuring it out on the way, and I have lots of stories like that. But those stories would be for another day or for another podcast episode. I wanted to have this one just on luck and on hard work and on stepping up and taking that challenge. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast episode, and I hope to see you in the next one.